everyone, it's Clarice, and today I'm going to be reviewing Children of Earth and Sky by Guy Gabriel Kay. I was fortunate enough to have gotten my copy for free from NetGalley, so thank you so much to NetGalley and to the publisher for allowing me to read this book. Children of Earth and Sky is about a lot of things, but mainly it's about this society, its religions, its customs, and the clashings of these different religions and customs in politics, in beliefs, and even in war. It follows a bunch of different characters: a merchant, a pirate, an artist, a spy, and a soldier, among others. Characters who are going on completely different journeys but whose lives somehow intersect. This is the second Guy Gabriel Kay book that I ever read, so naturally while I was reading this, I was going to compare it a bit with A Song for Our Bond, which I read a couple of months ago and loved. And there were a lot of similarities. The emphasis of female empowerment in a male-dominated society, the influence of religion on society and its customs, and the clashing of these different religions and beliefs. The subtle magical elements rather than the full-on magic systems or fantastical creatures. And of course, the beautiful poetic writing. Even though there were a lot of things that I felt were similar, I feel like they were well done and didn't feel repetitive. I didn't feel like I was reading the exact same book. Even though I've only read 2 of Guy Gabriel Kay's books, just based on those 2 books, I think I have like a distinct idea already of what type of writer he is and what type of books he writes. Enough that if I read a random book by Guy Gabriel Kay without actually knowing who the author was, I think I could probably figure out that it was him. Of course, there were also some differences with A Song for Our Bond. In this book, there were a lot of references to Guy Gabriel Kay's previous books. Maybe there were in A Song for Our Bond and I just wasn't aware of them or I didn't notice them, but in this book, I clearly remember reading references about Sarantium or Al Rasan, which are settings of some of his previous books, which I haven't read. That being said, those references didn't confuse me at all. They didn't take me away from the plot, but at the same time, it's kind of making me wish that I'd read those books first. Again, not a negative thing. I just feel like I may have been able to gain more from this experience if I was able to feel the nostalgia of reading references to books that I had already read. Another thing that was different was the lack of a singularly focused plot or even a main character. There were so many different characters in this book, all doing completely different things, and even though their lives kind of intersect, I don't think that there's like one main plot. I couldn't name it for you if you asked me, and I couldn't name a main character for you also if you asked me. If I had to name a main character, maybe I would have just said society as a whole. This was confusing to me at first, especially at the start of the book when a new character would be introduced and be like, oh, another POV, oh, another POV, oh, another POV. But eventually, I got used to it and it was actually done really well, and I don't feel that for most of the book I was confused at all by it. That being said, the characters are probably the only problem I had with this book. The characters had very, very distinct personalities and I liked some of the characters enough, but there were definitely times when the characters just didn't feel very authentic to me, and especially when the relationships of characters didn't feel really authentic to me. There was more than one I love you just being thrown out for no particular reason, and there were some actions that the characters did that just took me out of the story. I can't really tell you why at these moments the characters lost their authenticity for me. I just know that there were times that the characters did things that reminded me that I was reading a piece of fiction, and when I'm reading a piece of fiction, I don't like to be reminded that it's not real. And coming from a book that I think could have been very character-driven, or probably was supposed to be very character-driven, this was kind of a disappointment. That being said, I still thoroughly enjoyed this book overall. The scope was massive. All the characters came from completely different places and backgrounds, and I was never confused. Instead, I was able to get a general idea of what society was like. I was able to get a good grasp of the cultures and motivations, distinguishing each separate place from the other. And this was just one book. This was in the series, and yet I was able to learn so much about the world that this book was set in. Maybe it was easier for me to immerse myself in this world because it was based on actual Renaissance era. There were a lot of similar conflicts, like with the religions clashing and destroying for the sake of their religion. There were a lot of similar problems and issues in society, like the way that they look down on women. There are a lot of similar power struggles. I don't have a particularly good grasp of history, but this did feel somewhat familiar in a comforting way. but also extremely different in its own right. By the end of this book, I felt that this is a world that I really knew. So in conclusion, based on my personal experience, I do wish that the characters and the relationships with each other felt more authentic, and I generally prefer my gigantic, intricate plots rather than a bunch of separate plots. Overall though, this book never bored me. The culture was rich, the world was immersive, Kay's writing is so beautiful, and he's definitely a writer that I want to read so much more from in the future. So have you read this book, or are you planning to read it? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, have you read any other books by Guy Gabriel Kay? What do you think I should read next? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!